all my aura gone. Cheers. I think it's really easy to reflect on the younger version of yourself and see the highlights, but miss the lows. You can see the real carefree version of yourself, the weightless, effortless, simple version of you, and you can forget all the things that you didn't have. And sometimes it's really easy to want to go back to that. It's really easy to reflect and miss out on some of the negatives that might have been around. And I call this video All My Aura Gone because I found myself even looking to my younger self and kind of missing some of those days, which is fine. But I wanted to kind of dive deeper into why that is. And I put a couple things on my iPad down here. It's an iPad I bought my girlfriend, but I'm using it now. I think no responsibility puts you in a weird place where you're not really attached to anything, so you almost feel this false courage or confidence, almost like you're above everything because you don't really have to maintain or take care or deal with anything. And I know that for myself. When I didn't have to pay any bills, when I didn't have to guarantee that money came out of an account or when nothing depended on me, I felt like I was above it all. I felt higher than everyone in the room, and I just felt like there was a certain glow about me. And that's cool, but there's always a cost. Somebody's always paying for you, and we talking about money in this instance, but sometimes even this emotionally. When I didn't have my girlfriend, I felt almost above a relationship, not knowing that there's work on the other side of it. And I think it's really easy to look at your younger self and miss those days, miss some of those highlights, miss some of those feelings that you had. But I wouldn't be so quick to forget all the things that you've gained along the way. And speaking to myself, it's a lot of pros that I have now that the younger me wouldn't recognize as positives. I appreciate being dependent on it, for my girlfriend, for my pets, for my job. But the younger me, I didn't give two shits about my job. I went to work, made my little money, and I left as soon as I could. No more, no less, milking the clock, BSing around. And I think it's really easy to see. It's really easy to forget how much you've gained and how much you've learned as you mature, and how much of yourself is still in there, but there's a new version of what's cool to you. The younger me thought staying out of work was cool, smoking weed all day, just listening to music was cool, making my art was also cool, but really the gratification came from how other people viewed me as that guy. Not even always just doing those different things, but how other people saw me as this real carefree party or just super like hippie vibe. That boosted my ego, and I think as I got a little older, and this is still just in recent times, I'm reflecting on that and I'm seeing more of that wasn't positive, just looking for those ego boosts from other people. And that might segue into my other video about social media versus finding things that were cool to me and things that I can build on top of. When you don't have any responsibilities, if every day is the day, the intensity is all in the day. There's no long-term plan. There's nothing really getting built. There's no delayed gratification. It's today's gratification. What do I want today? And that felt like control for a long time until you realize it isn't. Until a disaster strikes, and then you realize you have no stability to lean on. You have no plan set in place. You have no resources, no money. Your lease is up. You have nowhere to go. Then you start to think about, man, okay, wow, delayed gratification, wow, discipline, or putting money aside, or wow, going to work, clocking the 40 hours might have been a good idea, you know. And I think it's really easy to think to those young days. I think for a lot of people, they think of being in college and saying, oh, I used to party, I used to do this, that, and the third. Back before I had responsibilities, back before I had a kid, back before I had to, you know, clock 40, 60 hours. And you can forget how cool you are now for taking care of business, being on top of things, having autonomy and having control in your life. You know, the irony is I felt like I had more control when I didn't actually control a lot more than the day. Sure, I could control who I'm about to go hang out with, or if I'm about to go, you know, smoke and listen to music, and I can control some things, but I didn't have movable chess pieces. You know, I didn't have any plans that stretched out, or plans that built up into something. You know, I didn't have money in the bank. I didn't have responsibility, you know, and in a weird way, I appreciate responsibility more. And I don't miss the chaos of not having that. So it's like, it's this weird balance. And I like the title of All My Oregon, because it can really feel like, you know, I'm no longer the same person. And I know to a degree I'm not. You know, I'm still in here, but I have to redefine what things are cool to me, you know, redefine what things I appreciate. You know, I love peace. I love my peace now, you know. And as much as I tried to embody that image of peace before, I was living in a lot of chaos up here, you know, and some chaos in my life, some chaos with my family and whatnot. You know, nothing that I'm upset about now, but I even needed the space to unpack and figure that out for myself, figure out if I was coping with different feelings and had certain habits that I shouldn't have, you know, that were trying to fight against some of those things. And I didn't have a grip on my life, you know. I was just kind of going with emotion. And I had a couple of different points that I jotted down, but that's the core of it, you know. And I was talking to my homie at work, and we were talking about how our younger siblings, they can joke on us like, oh man, you trying to be a good guy now, you're trying to, you know, build a stable life, and it's not cool anymore. But when you really like examine what cool is, sometimes it's just that not caring, or it's that, you know, the energy to just go, but not really think out something. Nothing is long. Nothing's planned, you know. That the version of me that used to stay up all night just because. I go to bed at like 9 o'clock now. I got work tomorrow, you know, but there's a plan to that. There's a reason. It pours into the next day. And the younger me would have thought that's so uncool. The older me, I cut off, but the older me, it sees it as powerful. You know, it's something that has to be done, because I actually want to build something, and I'm working towards something. So it's really easy to look at those things, and you got to redefine them as cool for yourself now, you know. And I'm learning to appreciate that for myself. And something else that I had jotted down was, growing up is realizing no one's coming to save you. And, you know, I think at some point, either something dramatic or drastic happens that makes you feel that, or somebody tells you that, or you just really have to come to that conclusion on your own. And that should point you to effort. It should point you in the direction of measuring your output and knowing that everything that you get is what you give back, you know. And you can change that. You could tweak that based on your effort. But it was really easy for me to complain about my life when I wasn't doing anything about it, you know. And really easy to, you know, just cope my way out of it, or smoke my way out of it, or just try to avoid it when I wasn't actively trying. So all my aura is gone, it left. No, but now I'm just a bit more calculated, you know. This version of me is a bit more meticulous, and I take my time a little more, you know. And I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful that I haven't been in situations that's put me in such harm's way that I couldn't come back from, You know, luckily, you know, I've only been in certain things that have scared me, but they scared me straight. You know, they scared me back towards building something positive, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think it's something to be proud of when you get a little older, when you start maturing. And that's not to say you gotta be 30 years old to come to these conclusions. Just reflect on your life. So all your aura is not gone. You're just growing up, and that's cool. So I'll chat with y'all in the next one.